I chose to do half a marathon. You're the reason for it. The Oscar Birmingham, the charity I'm running for Sickle Cell. Like, you're the closest person I know who lives with sickle cell every day, and yes, I used to give blood.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to do a little bit more, so I started running, and the cause I wanted to do it for was sickle cell. But I still feel like, yes, I'm spreading awareness, but I still feel like nobody don't really know too much about it. So I thought it was important to get you on here, just to have a conversation with you, just your experience and what you go to on a day-to-day basis. Like,
I'm privileged.
What is sickle cell?
Sickle cell. So, what is sickle cell? That's a big question, but I think from like just a summary of what the actual condition is, and it's a condition that affects the red blood cells in our bodies. And so, in a healthy person like you, your red blood cells are round like a donut, and they're like flexible, and they go through the vessels and they carry oxygen and iron to like everywhere, your organs, your bones, your muscles. In somebody with sickle cell, those red blood cells are not round; they're like a semicircle, like this, like a banana shape.
Yeah.
And instead of them being flexible, they're more rigid, and they don't hold as much oxygen as they should, and they don't hold as much iron as they should. So, the full name of the condition is sickle cell anemia, and that is because we have a chronic level of anemia that we'll always have because our blood cells physically can't hold as much iron that they should be able to hold. And my body will make sickle cells, but it will also try and make round cells as well. Yeah. But when it makes the round cells, as soon as those cells give up the oxygen, they will turn into a sickle cell. And over time, it causes lots of different complications, because if you imagine a tube, the round, nice, flexible cells can go down the tube really easily. Even if the tube has got some little kinks in, they go through nice and smooth. But the sickle cells, they will get stuck in the tube, and they'll kind of like clump together, and they'll damage the walls of the tube because of like they're more rigid, and that can cause like lots of complications. So the more acute complications that most people will hear about is something called a sickle cell crisis.
Yeah.
And that's like when you have an episode of extreme pain, like it's not like small pain like a headache or something like, it's like extreme pain, and it happens because the blood, which should be circulating nicely, has stopped circulating. So it could be in your arm, your leg, your back, your stomach, anywhere where blood goes, which is everywhere. There's a possibility that the blood could stop. And then if it stops, then you're not getting enough oxygen around your body, and it causes you to have extreme pain. And then if you're not seen to in a timely manner, then it can cause further complications.
How has that affected you on your everyday, day-to-day life?
It affects me every single second of the day. Like physically, obviously it affects me because it means that I'm always more tired. Like I'm starting behind the start line, if that makes sense. Like my body, just to maintain normal function, has to work 7 times harder than a healthy individual. So I'm more fatigued, I'm more tired, I have a lot of pain, and that's because over time, as you live with sickle cell, you get damage. So I have a lot of acute pain. Sometimes, like I'll have a crisis, I have to go to and from hospital quite regularly. Or sometimes you might have a crisis where you don't need to go to hospital, you try and manage it at home. But in those periods, you're still not 100%, you're still not well, you still might not be able to move your arm or your legs or something. But then you also get long-term damage, like organ failure. You might, I've experienced small strokes when I was young growing up. You might, like for example, I had a hip replacement when I was 31, because not enough oxygen could get to my bones. And during that time, when I had the damage to my bone and I couldn't walk, I had to be in a wheelchair. It got to the point where I was bedbound because I couldn't physically move because the bone had crumbled away. and I've had a hip replacement to alleviate that now, but that just affects you mentally as well. It affects you socially in like maintaining relationships with people, your family, your friends, because 1 minute you're well, the next minute you're not well. And it's a very unpredictable condition. Like you never know when a crisis is going to happen. You can't see it outwardly. So people look at me and they think, oh, but you look fine, or I can't see what's wrong with you. And so, you know, you go through phases when people doubt what you're saying to them, like, are you actually in pain? Or, but I saw you like walking a hill the other day, and now you're telling me that you can't turn up to my party because you don't feel well, or you're sick, or so it affects like your social relationships. It affects working. It just affects like everything day to day.
If you don't mind sharing, like how has it affected you when it comes to work?
So, to be fair, I would say, so I think I didn't say at the beginning, sickle cell is something that you're born with.
Yeah.
It's genetic. So I inherited the trait from my mum and a trait from my dad, and then I ended up with the full condition. So I'm born with this condition. So you get to the point where you're so used to the pain, you're used to going to and from hospital. You just get used to the tiredness. Like it's your normal. It's not like I was healthy and then I became sick. Like I've always had this condition, and you become resilient through that, and you kind of find ways to work through things. So I think because of that resilience, I was able to get through school quite okay. Like, you know, I was a high achiever and I enjoyed school. I really worked hard. When I went to university, the stress of university, I think, had put a toll on my body, and I was in hospital quite a lot of the time. I ended up in intensive care, on ventilators. So I spent most of my uni time in the hospital. But through that, I still studied while I was there. Like as soon as I was a little bit better, I studied and, you know, tried to catch up with coursework and this and that. And even sometimes I would discharge myself, go sit my exams, and then go back to the hospital. So that mindset meant that I found work okay in the beginning when I was working in the supported environment. So that my very first professional job as a pharmacist, I was actually working for the hospital trust that I used to get treated at.
Okay.
And my manager, she was really understanding. And with the sickness policy, every time I'd have to go into hospital, I would kept escalating, and it kept getting to points where it was like, oh, can you do this job? Or we're going to have to put you on like a sickness absence kind of review and things like that. And she was like, well, you know what, your sickle cell is something that is not going away. You can't help it. So she worked with HR to adjust the policy slightly. So if I was off of my sickle cell or for any of my hospital appointments, it wouldn't register as an absence.
Okay.
And they made sure like I was able to wear extra layers in the dispensary because it was a bit colder in there. And on the days that I wasn't feeling 100%, I could come in a little bit later. So they were really supportive, and it meant that I was able to do the job that I love, and it went well. But unfortunately, I moved to another hospital, and they weren't supportive at all. And they wouldn't let me dress warm within the dispensary. I had to stand in cold environments for long periods of time, which meant that I kept going off sick. And then I would get lots of additional stress when I came back off sick, because it was like, oh, you were off sick again, and, you know, things aren't improving. So ultimately I had to leave that job. I ended up leaving that job because of the hostile environment that was basically that started because of my sickle cell, and because employers don't want to, a lot of employers don't want to understand, and they just want people that they can rely on. Yeah. Which is a bit crazy because anyone can get sick at any point. But obviously with my sickle cell, it does mean that I am more likely to become unwell if there's certain triggers that happen or that are there that make my sickle cell flare up.
I heard you speak on that both your parents had the trait. So, just for anybody who don't understand, if I have the trait and my partner don't have the trait, is there still a chance that my kids might have a trait, or?
Yeah, so your kids can still have the sickle cell trait, but they would never be able to get sickle cell disease, like the full condition. Because as a human, like each of us have two sets of like, I don't want to make it a biology lesson, but we carry two sets of genes basically. So when a child is born, they will inherit two sets of genes, but it will be they'll inherit one from their mother and one from the father.
Okay.
So depending on which bit they inherit, will kind of like determine what. Yeah, it would determine what like genotype they have. So in sickle cell we call it a genotype. So your genotype, being as you're healthy, would be your AA.
Yeah.
And my genotype is SS because I've got full sickle cell.
Okay.
And then somebody with the sickle cell trait would be AS because they carry one normal gene and one sickle cell gene.
Okay, I got you.
So depending on which one a child inherits will depend on what diagnosis they get, or if they inherit the gene, or if they don't inherit anything. So for example, I have a brother and he's got the trait. He didn't inherit both the S genes. He inherited one S gene and one normal gene, whereas I inherited one S gene from my mum and one S gene from my dad, and then I got the full condition.
Do you know roughly how many people in the UK
so at the
suffer
moment,
with that?
At the moment, the NHS figures show that it's 1 in every 2,000 births, which is roughly about 17,000 people in the UK at the moment that have sickle cell. But that number is very underreported. It's actually a lot higher than that. So yeah, it is the most common genetic disorder in the UK.
Is it just mainly Black and Asian people what inherit sickle cell?
So anyone, doesn't matter what race you are, can have sickle cell. But it is more common within the Black and Asian community.
I would like to touch on like things what can like get donating blood, bone marrow. Can you just explain the complications with bone marrow, and does that help?
Okay, so with sickle cell, there isn't a routine cure.
Yeah.
So, for example, I was born in the 90s. I know I don't look it, but I was born in the 90s. So when I was born, my mum was told, there's no cure, I'm going to have this for life. That they actually told her that I wasn't going to live past 13 years old, but here I am.
Wow.
So now that medicine has kind of advanced slightly, there isn't a routine cure, but there is options such as bone marrow transplant, that some people can have if they have a match, which is a sibling, and they have to match them like 100% in order to get it on the NHS, and that's for adults and children. And that could potentially mean that that person would have a cure. They wouldn't create sickle cells anymore. And that is becoming something that the NHS is more and more invested in, and they're trying to allow more people to have that as a treatment option, because of the devastating effects of sickle cell as we age, and obviously not the impact, but the stress that it can have on the NHS over time, because more and more people are getting diagnosed with sickle cell, unfortunately, because people aren't taking the time to test their genotype, like they figure out if they have sickle cell or not. You can do that by having blood tests. And because when you have the trait, you don't have any symptoms, most people don't think to test for it, and then they end up having a child with sickle cell, and then the cycle goes on. So the NHS is trying to alleviate that by funding bone marrow transplants and stem cell transplant, more so now. And there's also a new treatment that has just come out called the gene therapy treatment, which is where not everybody with sickle cell will have a sibling that can donate to them. So this new treatment is where they would take my own cells and they would adapt them in a lab to switch off the DNA sequence that makes the incorrect cells. And then they would put those back into me, and then my body would then make the correct round cells instead. And that's called gene therapy, which has just literally come out. So the data on that is like quite limited, but they're hoping that it could be a treatment option in the future.
Can you talk on why donating blood is so important?
Yes, it's actually one of my favourite things to talk about, because I wouldn't be alive if I didn't have blood. Like, I've had blood my whole life, and it's the only thing that has like saved me in a lot of circumstances as well. So in sickle cell, donating blood is important because when we have a sickle cell crisis, like I was explaining to you before, or if we have any like complications where we have to go into hospital, because our blood level isn't already where it should be, when we're unwell, it drops even lower. And when you don't have enough blood within you, or this molecule called hemoglobin, which is carried in the blood cells, it becomes very life-threatening. Like, for example, when people have an accident, whether it's a car accident or when people give birth and then they lose a lot of blood, it's a life-threatening situation. That blood has to be replaced. And it's very similar within sickle cell. And that blood has to come from somewhere, and it comes from people donating it. When I was working, I had to have blood every month, and I used to have between 6 to 10 bags of blood each time. So that meant 10 different people had to come together that 1 month just to save my life, just to give me a quality of life that allowed me to be, you know, a valuable member of society, that still allowed me to be somebody's daughter, somebody's friend, somebody's sister, somebody's, you know, just allow me to be alive and have a good quality of life. It took 10 people to do that.
Is there enough people giving blood at the moment?
No, not enough people give blood, full stop, but especially within the Black community. I think it's only 3% of Black people give blood. And as somebody with sickle cell, we need Black people to give blood because it matches us better. It's not saying that blood from non-Black people doesn't match us, it does, but there's a certain molecule within blood that more Black people have, and when you have sickle cell, that molecule can make the match to the blood a lot better. Because we have blood repeatedly, we're not having it on a one-off. I've been having blood for the past 3 decades, 33 years I've had blood constantly. That means that your body gets used to it. And when your body gets used to something, it creates antibodies. And then it could mean that potentially I would reject the blood from somebody because it's not mine. So I could reject it. And if I reject that blood, it means I could never have blood again. And if there's an emergency when I need to have blood, which happens quite frequently in sickle cell, and then I can't have it because my body is rejecting it, then, you know, it wouldn't be a fun situation, let's put it like that. That could mean the end of my life. So by Black people giving more blood, it means that the risk of people like me rejecting blood is a lot less. So it's really, really important. And like, I met a blood donor actually, and you used to donate blood as well. But I actually went to a blood donor centre and spoke to the people that were giving blood, and I met a young Black girl there, and it was really emotional because I don't think she fully realised like the fact that she's actually saving lives, that she's saving, like someone like her has saved my life. Like when I was in critical care and the doctors called my mum and the whole family and said she's not going to make it through the night, it was blood transfusions that pulled me through. And when people donate blood, because it's such an easy process, like you go in, you fill out a few questions, they put the needle in you, and then within an hour you're done. And that one bag that you've donated gets split to help 3 people. So it seems like such a simple thing to her. Like she was like, oh, it doesn't take much of my time. You know, it's something I've always done, X, Y, and Z. And I was like, you don't understand, like, without that, I wouldn't be here. And a lot of the people that I love that also have sickle cell or lots of other conditions, they wouldn't be here either. And there's no other gift in the world that you can give for free that will also have positive effects for you. Like, there's a lot of positive effects when people give blood for them physically. It's free. It helps you, and it definitely saves somebody's life. What other gift is better than that?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I know. Yes, I'm running on the behalf of my people with sickle cell, but I want it just to be, yes, the donating to charity is very important, but the most important for me is to spread the awareness and get everybody out to give blood. If you can do it, I know everybody can't, but if you can, it's very important. And just seeing every day, because you're someone very close to me, I see every day what you go through. And sometimes, if you can't touch or see that person, you don't think about it. Yeah. But it's very important that we educate ourselves and just understand what's going on in our communities. And I know it's very personal to yourself, but like, how many times have you been in and out of hospital this year alone?
Okay, so what month were we in? August?
Yeah.
In August of 2025, and this year alone, I have been in hospital 6 times already. And 2 of those admissions were for just over 2 weeks. The shortest time I spent in one of the admissions, I think, was 5 days. So given that we're only 8 months in, that's quite a lot of time lost. And the thing with sickle cell is every crisis is life-threatening. Yeah. I don't know, and nobody can know where the blood is stopped. So if the blood isn't moving in my head, that's a stroke. If it's not moving in my heart, that's a heart attack. If it's not moving in my liver, that's liver failure. And when we feel the extreme pain, the pain doesn't necessarily show us where the blood is sickling. So I always have like this subconscious like knowledge of, oh my gosh, I'm having a crisis. Is this going to be my last one? You know, I've grown up with a lot of people with sickle cell that I've met on the children's wards, and many of them aren't here now. You know, I've met a lot of my friends with sickle cell in hospital as an adult, of various different ages, and a lot of them aren't here now. Unfortunately, you know, they've lost their fight to sickle cell, and I live with that knowledge every single day. Like, all of us are going to pass away at some point, but when you have to face it day in and day out, it's a bit more. It's a lot different. Yeah,
without the blood donations, we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
We don't. I literally would not be here, and that's from birth. Like, I had my first crisis when I was 18 months old, and I was in critical care, and they gave me a blood transfusion, and I was able to get through that. And it's the same till today. Like, those admissions that we've just numbered that I've had this year, out of the 6 admissions, I had a blood transfusion on every single one, bar one. So, and that's just this year alone. So it's really important. And to be fair, like, aside from the blood transfusions, it's also important what you're doing in terms of running the race and raising awareness in your way, because when somebody has sickle cell, obviously we have people around us that we love, like our families and our friends, but the reality is they can't help us get through the pain. They can support us and they can be there for us and they can visit us and, you know, encourage us, but they can't feel the pain for us. And sometimes I think it must be hard as the person caring or watching that person, thinking, what can I do? But the biggest thing that us as sickle cell patients want you to do is to champion sickle cell and to be our advocate and to talk about it and to like spread the awareness and get more people testing to make sure that they're not passing this gene down to their children and making more children be born with sickle cell. You know, that you're talking about it in your workplaces and raising the awareness of it, because that will help me then when I get a job. in spaces like what you're doing, like with your fitness and with your running, it's so important because we also need to keep our bodies fit and well in order to, you know, have a longer life and to have a better quality of life. But it also just shows that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be there visiting in the hospital, knowing every single thing about what's happening in that person's life to show support. Like, you're passionate about fitness and running, and through that you've been able to show me support, and that's the biggest thing that like we need, like, to keep going, because it can feel lonely otherwise.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep running, keep supporting you, but I am only one person, so I need more people like myself to keep spreading awareness, and the best way I can do that is through fitness. So I'm gonna champion you and everybody I know what lives with sickle cell on a day-to-day basis, and I'm going to keep spreading it, and I'm going to kill this half a marathon for you, and even on the day I'm going to spread that awareness like crazy there.
I'll be cheering you on, man.
But I'm going to show up for you, and I really appreciate you coming and sharing just a little bit of your story today. I really appreciate it. If there's anything you'd want to say for anybody who's nervous about coming to give blood, what would you tell them?
The best things in life are never easy, number one. And number two is, if you're nervous about giving blood because you think the needle might hurt, for whatever the reason is, think about how nervous the person that is getting that diagnosis of cancer, or that's in the bed with sickle cell, and the doctors have come and said, if you don't get this blood transfusion, you're not going to make it through the night. Or that pregnant lady that's hemorrhaging and is nervous that she might not get to spend her life with her newborn baby. Like, think about how they would be feeling and how nervous they would be if they couldn't get that bag of blood that you could easily donate.
I think it's important for people to know, because one thing, sometimes when we donate anything, we're like, does it even go to wherever?
Yeah,
but
that's true.
I promise you, from me giving blood,
yeah,
I always get like information with donate, with like, you've used your blood, thank you. Like, I know it's being used.
Yeah.
And you're a testament of that.
Yeah.
So just giving blood really saves a life. And we're going to keep spreading awareness. And I didn't realise the month of the race is September, which is...
September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month within the UK. So,
like, when booking it for that time, I didn't even think, but it all works out.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm going to show up, run, smash the marathon on behalf of everybody living with sickle cell.
Thank
Which
you.
are they, sis? I appreciate you. Thank you.
Love you.
But yes.